Greetings. It's been a while since I've done one of these videos. New curtains, actually. Okay, so things have changed. Somewhat changed around here. Testing out to see if these new curtains are any better than the old ones. If I don't like them, I can always switch back. Bye. But that's not important here. What's important here is that I'm doing a prediction video for the Royal Rumble. Now you might be asking, why haven't I done a prediction video since Payback, I think? Well, the reason for that has been I normally don't do prediction videos for shows I'm not going to be watching. I'm making a special exception to this show, though, because it's the Royal Rumble and it's one of the most interesting pay-per-views of the year. And yes, you heard me right, and you didn't mishear me. I'm not watching the Rumble. So you might be asking, well, why are you doing a prediction video for it then? Like I said, it's the most important, it's one of the most interesting shows to talk about. So I figured, what the hell, I'll throw my hat in the ring and see how my predictions stack up, even if I'm not going to be watching the show. If you're wondering why you're not watching the show, well, simply, I got a job recently and I work Mondays. So, yeah, I can't afford to stay up all night to watch it, and I work I highly doubt I'm going to be in any condition to watch it when I come home from work. So yeah, I'm not watching the Rumble. I'm just going to see what the results are online when I come home. But until then, we got a card to talk about. So we'll get the title matches out of the way, and then we'll get to the interesting part, which is discussing the Rumble match itself. Rumble matches, sorry, there are two of them. First up, we have the Women's Tag Team Championship match. Asuka and Charlotte defending their titles against Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. This one's pretty... This one's... My pick for this one is purely based on the fact that I just want this tag team to end. Actually, I want both tag teams to break up. But I want this tag team to break up first. I want Asuka and Charlotte to retain. Then I want Nia and Shayna to go into the Rumble and break up officially in the match itself. Like with Nia eliminating Shayna, or Shayna eliminating Nia, and they're officially just done as a team. That's just my pick. So yeah, I just want that team, because that team shouldn't have been made in the first place, in my opinion. And honestly, I would have preferred it if Shayna and Asuka were fighting for the Raw Women's title on this night rather than for the tag titles. Because I've yet to see an actual one-on-one match with no distractions. They had a one-on-one match on Raw and it was pretty good up until... But they focused too much on Charlotte and Nia on the outside, which is really annoying. And I know that Asuka and Charlotte have been having different feuds on Raw, and it makes sense to take the titles off of them. But I'd rather they just drop it to, I don't know, Mandy and Dana instead, rather than this. So yeah, my pick is just this. I don't really care either way, honestly, but I'd rather see Nia and Shayna break up rather than getting the titles back. So, yeah, that's my pick. Next up, Sasha Banks versus Carmella for the Smackdown Women's Championship. This one's also pretty simple to me. They've had a match already. Sasha already won. I don't see Carmella winning the title yet. I see Sasha holding the championship all the way till WrestleMania. So, yeah, I'm pretty damn certain Sasha's going to retain here and move on to WrestleMania. Next up, the Universal Championship match as Kevin Owens challenges Roman Reigns in a last man standing match. This one also seems pretty simple to me because they've been feuding for a while now. This is, I think, Owens' third attempt, because they had a match at TLC, then they had a match on Smackdown. This will be the third opportunity that Owens has at the championship. And I don't see it going any differently than the other ones. I think Roman Reigns is retaining here, possibly with help from Jay, possibly by himself, possibly Jimmy Uso might be coming back soon, and we can have a trio of the tribal family or whatever you call them. But yeah, I'm picking the tribal chief to retain because he's just the best part of SmackDown these days, and I don't see him losing the title until maybe Mania, possibly even after that, possibly not even at Mania itself. But yeah, that's my pick. Next up, a match I'm really worried about. Goldberg versus Drew McIntyre for the WWE Championship. For those of you who are unaware, ever since he returned in 2016, Goldberg has had a habit of challenging and beating world champions on the road to WrestleMania. In 2017, he challenged Kevin Owens for the Universal Championship and beat him at Fastlane and beat him and took the championship to WrestleMania. Last year at Super Showdown, he defeated The Fiend for the Universal Championship and took it to WrestleMania. And now at the Rumble, he's challenging Drew McIntyre for the WWE Championship. And that makes me worry that they're actually going to have Goldberg win the championship. As you might be able to tell from the tone of my voice, I do not want this to happen at all. I want Drew to retain because Drew has been doing exceptionally as WWE Champion, and I'd rather he hold on to that title until WrestleMania. But there's a part of me that's saying, they've announced that they're going to try to have some fans at WrestleMania 37, and we could have Drew win the championship from Goldberg in front of fans to get the pop that he didn't get last year. It's a possibility, but it's really stupid and feels pointless to take the title off of Drew onto Goldberg for no good reason, especially since Goldberg's probably not going to wrestle until WrestleMania again. I just really don't want that to happen. Please, don't be stupid, WWE. I know you usually are. I know you really are stupid. I called you that last year when you had Goldberg beat The Fiend. Don't do it again. Please, just do the right thing here and have Drew absolutely wreck Goldberg. Hit him with a Claymore early if you want. Just end the match quick. Have Drew win and retain his championship. And don't do any cash-in stuff with The Miz either. Don't bother with any of that. Just have Drew win and take his championship home with him. Don't, please, just, yeah. This is purely by heart. I'm picking Drew. Drew to retain. Okay, that does it for the other matches on the card. It's time to talk about the big stuff. The Royal Rumble matches. I'm going to be starting with the women's one. So, for the Women's Rumble, the current standing is that there have been 13 people announced for the Rumble itself. They are Nia Jax, Charlotte Flair, Bianca Belair, Bayley, Mandy Rose, Dana Brooke, Peyton Royce, Alexa Bliss, Shayna Baszler, Liv Morgan, Ruby Riott, Tamina, and Natalya. And one special thing about Natalya is that she recently had a match with Tamina on WWE Backstage, which is a talk show of some description that WWE cancelled, but then brought back for one night only, in which Natalya won a match, and by winning the match, she is now officially the number 30 entrant in the Royal Rumble. So we already know that Natalya is going to be entering the Rumble at number 30. And with the list I just read off, that means there are 17 superstar 17 women in this Rumble unaccounted for. So we could see a lot of people enter the Rumble. It could be some people from Smackdown or Raw that we haven't considered. It could be some legends coming back. Like, it could be people from NXT. And in fact, one person has been in a lot of conversation as to who's going to win the Rumble from NXT. But I'll get to that in a moment. But I've announced all the people. But I should tell you one thing about how I do Rumble predictions. I might have mentioned this last year, but I'm going to do it again. Because Rumble matches are so difficult to predict, there are 30 people in the match, and a lot of them have reasonable chances to win. I'm going to hedge my bets. Instead of picking one person and hoping they win, I'm picking 3 people. I have 3 picks. If either of them win, I get a point for that match. So, I have 3 picks for the Rumble, because it's really difficult to predict. Now, as for who's going to win, there's been a lot of people who've been talking about different, who's had a different chances of winning. One name that isn't on the list but that has been rumored a little bit is that we're going to have the main roster call-up for Rhea Ripley. Have her come up from NXT, win the Rumble, and possibly challenge a future Charlotte as champion to avenge her loss from last year. That's a possibility. Another one is that Bianca Belair has been booked really strong on SmackDown, so having her win the Rumble could be a very good way of promoting her even more, and then have her win the SmackDown Women's Championship at WrestleMania. That's a possibility. I personally don't think so. I personally think they might prolong the feud between her and Bayley by having her be eliminated by Bayley. So I don't think Bianca's going to win. And same go. And I think I'm pretty confident that Rhea Ripley is in fact going to be in the Rumble match itself, but she's not going to win. That's my thought. So my thought process. So my picks are the one I'm most confident in is Alexa Bliss. She has recently debuted this new character that switches, where she switches personas during the match. She can go from her her happy TV show personality like Funhouse Bray. I guess we could call her Funhouse Alexa. Then she could switch back to a confused old version of Alexa that's gonna be prone, and then you have her demon state where she becomes impervious to pain and pretty much becomes possessed by the fiend. And she recently used those techniques to get not 1 but 2 victories over the Raw Women's Champion. One's clean, and the other because she got attacked by Randy Orton and got DQ. Yes, you heard me right. So my pick for the Rumble is in fact going to my first pick is going to be Alexa Bliss. That's the one I'm the most confident in. There are also other options. A part of me was thinking maybe they could go for Charlotte again, and have her and Asuka go at it for the Raw Women's Championship. Yeah, again, at WrestleMania. I thought about it, but I think a different rematch is more likely to happen. So my number 2 pick is going to be Bayley. I think she might actually win it, and win the match, and go on to face Sasha Banks for the SmackDown Women's Championship. It was rumored that was going to be a match at WrestleMania, and I think they might actually go through it, because it's been a while since those two have clashed, so maybe they will have it happen now. And they might want to make sure that every single member of the 4 horsewomen win the Rumble at least once. Becky won it in 2019, Charlotte won it in 2020. Maybe now it's Bayley's turn. So yeah, my second pick is Bayley. And my third and final pick, and this is purely a heart thing because I really want this to happen, I want Shayna Baszler to win and challenge Asuka for the Raw Women's Championship. That's my... I know that's very unlikely. I don't believe for a second Shayna's actually going to win it, but I'm hoping. So my pick, Shayna Baszler. That's my third pick. So to summarize, my picks are in order: Alexa Bliss, Bayley, Shayna Baszler. Those are my 3 picks for the Rumble. If either of them win, I get a point. And finally, we got the Men's Royal Rumble, which I think will main event the show. And to read off the names that have been announced for that Rumble, we have Daniel Bryan, Bobby Lashley, AJ Styles, Randy Orton, who, by the way, on the backstage show was announced to be entering at number 1. Otis, The Miz, Jey Uso, Cesaro, Jeff Hardy, Sami Zayn, Dolph Ziggler, Shinsuke Nakamura, Big E, John Morrison, Sheamus, sorry, I need to make sure I pronounce this correctly, Mustafa Ali, Edge, who, again, that backstage show, it announced both the number 1 and number 2 entrants in the Men's Rumble. So Randy's entering at number 1, and Edge is entering at number 2. Baron Corbin, Rey, and Dominic Mysterio, and finally Braun Strowman, who returned on the last Smackdown before the show. That leaves 9 people unaccounted for. Probably some NXT people, maybe some legends, maybe some people we weren't even thinking about. Maybe some returning superstars. Seth Rollins has been rumored to be returning, that maybe his paternity leave is over. Who knows? It might happen. I don't see it happening, but it might happen. So, who do I see winning this Rumble? Well, up until recent, it's like after Raw happened and Edge announced that he's entering the Rumble, I was kind of confident that he was going to win it. I was confident in picking him as one of my picks, and I still am. But I'm not as confident anymore now that he's been announced at number 2. He could still win it, but I'm not as confident. It seems the odds-on favorite to win the Rumble right now is Daniel Bryan. And I kind of agree with it. Roman Reigns versus Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania. Bryan winning a Rumble, something the one thing he hasn't accomplished in WWE yet, outside of winning. Because Daniel Bryan has basically accomplished all there is to do in WWE outside of winning King of the Ring and winning a Rumble. Because Daniel has won the U.S. title, tag titles, a world title 5 times, I think. 4 WWE and 1 World Heavyweight. He's been Intercontinental Champion. He's been, I think I mentioned he was tag champ, with someone like Kane or Eric Rowan or, that stuff. And he has won Money in the Bank, so that leaves him winning a Rumble. And he's recently announced that he's on his last run as a full-time wrestler, so he might be coming part-time soon. So him winning a Rumble makes sense to me that he finally does win one before he starts winding down his career. So yeah, my pick is the pick I'm most confident in right now is Daniel Bryan, that he's going to finally win a Rumble. My second pick is Edge, who I definitely see they would try to give some momentum back to, because he would have been. I'm not sure if he would have wrestled more regularly if he hadn't gotten injured at Backlash, but that's what I think they are doing. Is Edge that Edge is going to wrestle. Is going to win, might be winning this Rumble, and they might be just finishing up the Randy Orton Edge rivalry right here, because those two are entering at number 1 and 2. He's done with Orton throughout the match, and moves on to a new feud with Drew McIntyre for the WWE Championship. That sounds a bit tantalizing to me. So yeah, I'm picking Edge as my number 2. I would have picked him as as my most confident pick, but I am not very confident now after he was announced as number 2 in the Rumble. His odds are very, very bad right now. He could be an Iron Man for a while, but then lose. I don't know what they're going to be doing. So yeah, that's my... So yeah. And now let's discuss the other ones, because I had a really hard time picking a third one. Not because there aren't any good choices. There are a lot of good choices. That's why it was difficult. Up until recently, Big E was a contender, because people were talking about them pushing him as a single star ever since he was split off from the New Day. Hey, but he's recently won the Intercontinental Championship and seems to be holding on to that. Seems to be involved in a feud with Sami Zayn and Apollo Crews, so I don't see him winning the Rumble. I see him just holding on to that title and defending it at either defending it or challenging for it at WrestleMania. One pick that's kind of been on someone's mind is Sheamus. Sheamus could win the Rumble and challenge his friend Drew McIntyre. That's a feud that's been somewhat built and then kind of forgotten about. Well, so that's a possibility. Braun Strowman just returned, and they could be building something for Braun to come back and challenge Roman or Drew. Either one seems plausible. Then there is Shinsuke Nakamura, who recently had a big showing in a gauntlet match and has recently turned face. So that's a possibility, though I personally don't see that happening anymore. They have kind of left that to the wayside for a while now. A dark horse has been Cesaro, Shinsuke's partner, who has been gaining some momentum recently with some big wins over the likes of Daniel Bryan and Dolph Ziggler. Randy Orton, I just mentioned, entered the number 1. He could potentially go all the way, but that's highly unlikely. I think we're going to see the return of The Fiend. Speaking of which, The Fiend, he could enter the Rumble and win it, challenging Drew McIntyre and try to get the championship, or challenging Roman to get the title back that he lost at Payback. That's a possibility. There's also some outside picks, specifically pertaining to a news, something that was talked about in the wrestling news, is that a source close to WWE recently heard about some plans that were being considered, and it terrified the source. And that means that he heard it and really didn't like what he was hearing. So that says to me that they say that it's a scary thought, in that it's a bad booking decision. That leads me to believe that they're going to have someone like Brock Lesnar come back and win the Rumble, setting up a rematch from last year's Mania between Drew and Brock. Or a worse thing that could happen, that I've actually heard some people consider. Last year, we were supposed to get Goldberg versus Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship, but that didn't happen because Roman pulled out due to health concerns for his kids, or himself, I'm not entirely sure. It keeps switching what people are saying that happened. And it's that Braun Strowman took his place and won the title. So they might be doing a double duty for Goldberg. He loses to Drew, goes into Rumble, and wins the damn thing to challenge Roman for the title at WrestleMania. Or worse, he wins the title, goes in the Rumble and wins that too, and to try and win all the gold. That's a nightmare scenario and a half for me. Some people might be thinking this is a nightmare scenario, though I personally wouldn't be against it. Undertaker returns. Yeah, I know. You could say, oh, he had his final farewell at Survivor Series. I'm still not convinced that that's the end. Especially since they've announced that they're trying to have fans at WrestleMania 37. Might be a good opportunity for Undertaker to make his appearance and finally have a proper farewell in a match. Although I personally don't want that. I think if we're going to have Undertaker come back for another match, I'd rather they wait and do that some other point for some other match. I'm still kind of convinced that Undertaker will wrestle again. When? Don't know, but we'll see. I think it will happen though when the pandemic is over. Although I'm not entirely sure when that will be. The vaccination process has been kind of slow lately, which is to be expected. And I heard some people talk about April will be the latest that people in my range, like the 18 to 50 or something, could get the vaccine. Possibly. I hope so, because I want to get this vaccine as soon as possible so we can end this stupid pandemic. But yeah, enough about that. But yeah, those are a lot of scenarios I can see. But I've decided to go with a bit of an outside pick here. My pick is going to be AJ Styles. Why? Simply because one, the match he had with Drew McIntyre was kind of interrupted by the Miz running interference and cashing in his Money in the Bank, even though it was a semi-retcon on another Raw. He's been having this Royal Rumble challenge recently, where people who want to get in the Rumble, like Drew Gulak, Ricochet, and R-Truth, have been challenging AJ Styles to get in the Rumble and lost. So he might be using that to brag a lot about his big Rumble victory. Plus he has his bodyguard, Almas, I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce his name. So he could be a factor in AJ surviving and winning the Rumble. And I've heard one rumor that sounds kind of intriguing. Last year, Charlotte won the Rumble, and then Rhea Ripley challenged her to defend to use her Rumble victory against her at WrestleMania. Bad call, by the way, because she did end up losing the NXT Women's Championship. Maybe something like that can happen this year, where the NXT champion Finn Balor could be the target for Rumble winner AJ Styles. Although I would personally not want that. I personally want if AJ won the Rumble, he'd challenge Drew. I am not entirely sure about it though, but that's my dark horse pick. I'm going to go for AJ Styles as my third pick. So to summarize all I've just said, my three Rumble picks are, my most confident one is Daniel Bryan, then Edge, and finally AJ Styles. And those are my Rumble thoughts, or Rumble predictions. To quickly summarize my picks for the entire card, Asuka and Charlotte to retain, Sasha Banks to retain, Roman Reigns to retain, please have Drew retain. For the Women's Rumble, I'm picking Alexa Bliss, Bayley, and Shayna Baszler. That's my three picks. And for the Men's Rumble, my three picks are Daniel Bryan, Edge, and AJ Styles. I'm not entirely sure if I'm going to be doing a follow-up video following what happens. I might. At my new job, I only work Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, so I can use Tuesday to give you an update on what I think. We'll see. And if I don't, then don't expect another wrestling video from me until WrestleMania happens, because Because by then, at least I'll be able to watch night 1. So you'll get predictions for WrestleMania at 37 is definitely happening, and I'm definitely watching that show. But as for the Rumble, sorry, I gotta work.